The music of Ocarina of Time. When I think about the soundtrack to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a few adjectives come to mind. Adventurous, dynamic, sometimes bleak, or other times peaceful. Actually, a few more specific adjectives come to mind too. Trippy, horsey, and digestive, I guess? But let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Whether you're familiar with Ocarina of Time or not, one thing is certain. Its music takes you on an adventure of its own. Whether it's the songs that feel heroic and grandiose, or the ambient tracks that evoke tones of suspicion and isolation, or even the quaint and quirky tunes. There's something in the soundtrack for everyone, and when all put together, each song makes for a rich, dynamic, and cohesive musical experience. There is absolutely no shortage of retrospectives celebrating Ocarina of Time as a video game, but I have discovered a lack of content celebrating its entire soundtrack as a standalone work. So, right now, I'm going to take some time to review, reflect, and celebrate the soundtrack to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But before we dive into the soundtrack, I think it's important to have a little context. And for that, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at the back of the box. Ganondorf, the evil king of thieves, is on the move, threatening the peaceful land of Hyrule. He is determined to steal his way into the legendary Sacred Realm in hopes of harnessing the power of the mythical Triforce. As the young hero, Link, it is your destiny to thwart Ganondorf's evil schemes. Navi, your guardian fairy, will guide you as you venture through the many regions of Hyrule, from the volcanic caves of Death Mountain to the treacherous waters of Zora's Domain. Before you complete this epic quest, you'll delve into deadly dungeons, collect weapons of great power, and learn the spells you need to conquer the most irresistible force of all time. Wow. Okay, first off, props to whoever wrote that. But geez, man, save some writing skills for me. My girlfriend is watching this. But you know what? If that doesn't paint a great picture of Ocarina of Time's tone and scope, then I don't know what would. And now, with this context in mind, let's get into it. The majority of Ocarina of Time's soundtrack is grounded with orchestral instrumentation. Classical-style music, in other words. You know, the same kind of stuff you'd hear in epic fantasy movies. Strings, woodwinds, and brass sections are all a mainstay throughout the soundtrack, with the most prominent instruments being the harp, clarinet, bassoon, and ocarina. Huh, who would have thought? There are a handful of genre-defying exceptions as well. Some portions of Ocarina of Time's music contain Middle Eastern influence, while other tracks showcase musical elements from the opposite side of the world with American country western instrumentation. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize just how musically dynamic Ocarina of Time's soundtrack really is. And it's crazy to think that all 82 of these pieces were composed by one man, the legendary Koji Kondo. Koji Kondo's music compositions are some of the most recognizable in the entire history of video games, having written tracks for the Mario series, Star Fox, and of course, the Legend of Zelda series, including its iconic main theme. Okay, sure, we all know his work, and we all know it's good, but why is it so good? Well, in my opinion, what's caused Koji Kondo's music to stand the test of time is his extraordinary ability to write memorable melodies. As a songwriter and composer myself, I firmly believe that it's important to write strong melodies to keep listeners engaged in remembering the song long after listening. My simple way to identify a song with a good melody is, well, can you easily hum it? Da 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 All right, you get the point. And I think you know where I'm going with this. The soundtrack to Ocarina of Time is filled to the brim with strong melodies. I mean, look at some of these songs. Take Lost Woods, for example. Its whimsical and clashy ocarina melody, backed by a quick staccato rhythm section of bassoons and clarinets, make for a song that'll easily get lodged into your head for a long time. In a similar vein, there's the iconic House theme. This song may not go too long before it loops, but it packs a punch. The bouncy dual clarinets work so nicely alongside the syncopated plucked strings, not to mention the secondary flute melody that comes in once the musical phrase repeats. And then there's one of my personal favorites, the shop theme. Bringing a Latin and bossa nova feel, the shop theme stands out from other songs in the Ocarina of Time soundtrack. You've got the lively percussion section showing off the cabasa, congas, and cowbell, and the very catchy accordion melody followed by the drawn-out horns in the song's second section, a perfect counter to the first section. It's all just, chef's kiss. And look, when a video game song has a melody that's this catchy, the lyrics practically write themselves. So really quick, if you could, just go ahead and forgive me in advance for what I'm about to do. Thanks.
Come in and buy my things. I've got lots of deals for you and everyone else. But if you decide to not purchase a thing, I will be sad and I will close up my shop.
Thank you. I have no idea why I chose that voice. But it doesn't even get close to stopping there. Koji Kondo wrote so many unforgettable melodic songs for the soundtrack that I can't even properly break them all down in this video. What about the Renaissance-influenced market theme that perfectly encapsulates the hustle and bustle of an old town market? Or the whimsical and curious spirit of Kokiri Forest? What about the absolutely iconic Song of Storms, with its brisk 3/4 pace contrasted by its dark tone? Or the warm and comforting Kakariko Village theme? You know, speaking of warm and comforting, there's no shortage of quiet and reflective melodic moments in Ocarina of Time soundtrack either. Like Zelda's Lullaby. A beautiful ocarina melody backed by very subtle strings, a delicately plucked harp upholding the song's 3/4 time signature, which is also largely responsible for really making the song feel like a lullaby. Another slower song in 3/4 time is the iconic Lon Lon Ranch theme. Drawing influence from old American country western music, Lon Lon Ranch starts with a clean electric guitar, just strumming away. Then it's joined by an almost whiny lap steel guitar before the vocals come in to sing the main melody. It's really beautiful when you sit back and think about it. I think my favorite part of this track is how well its two main sections work with one another. Lon Lon Ranch's first section is peaceful and reflective, while its second section starts to feel a little haunting, especially near the end, right before the first section starts up again. It's just a great contrast. And of course, there's the fiddle that takes the front seat at the very end of the song, which really brings its musical identity home. It really makes you feel like you just worked a long day on the farm, and you're looking at all the progress you made today. And you're gonna wake up tomorrow and do it all again. But I'm no farmer. Let's move on. Taking a full 360, what about the infamous Song of Time? Taking major influence from Gregorian chants, this song feels sacred and transcendent. The Song of Time stands out from other songs in the soundtrack, and has one of the most recognizable and memorable melodies in comparison. And when we're talking about Ocarina of Time's most melodic music, it would be a literal sin not to mention Gerudo Valley. Being a fan favorite, the Gerudo Valley theme is popular amongst non-musical gamers and musically inclined gamers alike. Alongside its very distinct style, drawing inspiration from Spanish flamenco guitar music, I think Gerudo Valley is also a great example of showcasing the power of strong melodies and how they work. The song contains a 4-chord progression that repeats throughout the entire track. However, the song is broken up into 3 sections, each presenting their own musical motif. I love this. It really showcases Koji Kondo's musical creativity. He's able to write 3 distinctive and memorable melodies using the same 4 chords in under 90 seconds. But as I've said earlier, tracks like the Gerudo Valley theme and Lon Lon Ranch are a departure from the soundtrack's primary musical style, grand orchestral style music. And if you're looking for one of the best examples of how adventurous and thrilling Ocarina of Time's music can be, look no further than the Hyrule Field theme. The Hyrule Field theme encapsulates and echoes the entire soundtrack's most prominent tone, adventure. Throughout its nearly 5-minute runtime, this song manages to take us, the listeners, on a journey. It starts off with a lot of hope, with trumpets leading the way as the snare drums march along. It just feels like the beginning of a grand adventure. But as with any adventure, danger could be just around the corner. And the song's second section throws us in the middle of it. It sounds chaotic and daunting, but the drums maintain a similar rhythm pattern, making it feel like we're marching through the danger and not letting it stop us. Pretty soon, the clouds clear, and the Hyrule Field theme enters its final section. The marching snares are brought to a halt, and the woodwind section, alongside the harp, take the spotlight. This is my favorite part of the entire track. It embodies the feeling of reflection and maybe even a little melancholy, too. It's like the song's way of encouraging us to look back on this epic musical trek that we just went on. What an incredible song. See what I mean? The sprawling and wide scope of Ocarina of Time's soundtrack makes it feel like a sonic adventure. No, not that sonic adventure. Like an audible adventure to the ears, complete with twists, turns, and remarkable melodies. Okay, so we know how the soundtrack sounds, and how strong melodies are an integral part of the soundtrack. But what about the less melodic tracks that make you feel? And I mean really feel. You know, like with 6 E's feel. Feel. Well, it probably comes as no surprise that the Ocarina of Time soundtrack has plenty of that kind of music too. Let's talk about the ambient tracks. I view the ambient music as additional texture to the overall soundtrack. These songs don't take away from the melodic ones, but enhance them. It's such a great musical contrast and keeps the entire soundtrack feeling fresh. The atmospheres of these pieces range from feeling isolated and secluded to dark and foreboding. Pretty early on in the track list is Inside the Deku Tree. This song feels long and spacious, with wood flutes echoing far and wide. It seems serene and safe as the wood flutes play various notes that fit nicely within the Mixolydian mode. But simultaneously, it feels secluded as the flutes reverberate for what seems like an eternity, with no other instruments accompanying them. A great introduction to all the other ambient music that the Ocarina of Time soundtrack has to offer. When mentioning seclusion, you can't not mention the ice cavern theme. The wind is howling as high-pitched bells ring in a short melodic pattern. God, this song makes you feel so isolated, so alone, and so cold. I see the bells as musical representations of icicles moving around in the wind, sort of like a naturally occurring wind chime. Wind chimes make another appearance in the Water Temple theme. The Water Temple theme has a vast musical vocabulary, with faint bells, quiet horns, flutes, and other aquatic ambient soundscapes, all while incorporating Middle Eastern musical elements. I swear, every time I listen to this song, I discover something new. Also taking influence from Middle Eastern music is the Spirit Temple theme. There is, of course, the song's iconic intro. Its multiple gong strikes and deep tones create an imposing atmosphere right off the bat, as if the song is almost warning you of what's to come. Side note, I simply cannot hear the Spirit Temple theme's intro without also hearing the two pots flying at you at full speed. I cannot be the only one. Anyway, as the track slowly drones along, with an echoing Dilruba playing throughout, yes, I did my homework, thank you very much, it begins to feel almost ancient and sacred, perfectly complementing its gameplay counterpart. It's also with these atmospheric songs, however, that the Ocarina of Time soundtrack reveals its darker side. Because, as we all know, if a big adventure is filled with light, there's always darkness looming nearby. The Forest Temple theme. For me, when it comes to ambience and atmosphere, no other track comes close. This theme doesn't expect us, or want us, the listeners, to make sense of its musical identity, whether it be the dissonant, clashy, and spacious background textures, or that eerie, bone-rattling sound resonating throughout the entire piece. The Forest Temple theme doesn't apologize for being what it is: cryptic, strange, and mystifying. Ocarina of Time's darker-toned tracks continue with all of its battle music. The standard battle theme is unsettling. Its fast and oddly syncopated snare drum rhythm, matched by low staccato strings, provides a sense of needing to keep moving and not settle in one place. This is in a slight contrast to the mini-boss battle theme, boasting a more cohesive marching rhythm and stronger melody played on the xylophone and flute. This is backed by a counter melody of low strings and brass, keeping the song's intimidating nature still intact. And then, there's the boss battle theme. Another fast and syncopated snare drum rhythm, the seemingly random low piano strikes, the dissonant horns, the screeching trumpet echoing throughout. This song slaps you in the face and doesn't even apologize for it. And lastly, you can't talk about Ocarina of Time's boss battle music without mentioning the boss himself. When listening to the track list in order, Inside Ganon's Castle, which is also basically Ganondorf's theme, Ganondorf Battle, Escape from Ganon's Castle, and Last Battle serve really well as the climax to this musical adventure I keep alluding to. There have been a lot of triumphant melodies, and there have been a lot of dark and dire musical moments too. But now, it all comes down to these 4 songs. But really quick, let's backtrack to that last thing I just said. The bit about different musical moments. You see, the rhythm of a long, sprawling adventure may shift back and forth from thrilling and fun to dangerous and unpredictable numerous times. But that's not all that adventures have to offer. What about the downtime? The peaceful moments? Or even the flat-out boring moments? Ocarina of Time's soundtrack presents these moments in musical form too, really putting the finishing touches on fleshing out the identity of this exceptionally dynamic soundtrack. What's there to say about Goron City? It's, kind of weird. I mean, in a good way, though. It's fun, lighthearted, quirky, and very percussion-forward, making it almost danceable. In context with the rest of the soundtrack, Goron City is, in my opinion, a welcome departure from the other serious songs. From dancing to swimming, we've got Zora's Domain. Talk about a relaxing piece of music. Zora's Domain features aquatic choral ambience, bongos, the kabasa, and a bright acoustic guitar carrying the melody. To me, it feels like music you'd hear while you're at the spa, complete with the whole cucumbers on your eyes thing. Not only that, but it also feels kind of like a musical safe haven, protecting you from all the other heavier and scarier music scattered throughout the soundtrack. Keeping in theme with relaxation, there's also Great Fairy's Fountain. This is one of Zelda's many recurring pieces, and certainly one of the most recognizable. The harp plucks a memorable melody, note by note, creating a delicate and ethereal atmosphere. When the theme repeats, the harp is accompanied by light, airy strings. Even though it's only around 30 seconds long, I could listen to this song on repeat for hours. The screaming fairy, though? Yeah, I can live without that part. The harp music continues with Sheik's theme, another very short piece, but an effective one nonetheless. This theme feels reflective, intimate, comforting. Tonally, the harp is more versatile than you may think. Harp music isn't always comforting. Take Chamber of Sages, for example. Okay, so you know in the movies where somebody wakes up with no knowledge of where they are, and then they always dramatically ask, "Where am I?" This song perfectly illustrates that feeling. The harp, bells, and haunting choir create a piece of music that feels dizzy and unclear. Once again, a great change of pace for the soundtrack's dynamic tone. When waist deep in an ongoing adventure, you might sometimes find yourself stumbling into some shady places with some shady people. But hey, we all get a little curious sometimes. If the potion shop theme was setting out to make you feel like you've just entered a dark, back alley shop with some less than legal substances, then it's done its job. Being yet another song with Middle Eastern influence and instrumentation, it feels otherworldly, mystical, and almost supernatural. Alright, so I'm looking through all of the songs in the Ocarina of Time soundtrack, and there are quite a few shorter pieces that I still haven't covered. Who knows, maybe I can break those down in a future video. There is, however, one collection of short songs that I do want to briefly cover. The 6 main Ocarina Warp songs. In the game, there are 6 places you can warp to by playing a particular set of notes on your ocarina. Each song is significantly short and composed primarily of the ocarina, harp, and strings. Yet each feels unique from one another, carrying distinctive and memorable melodies. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of quickly rank these from my least to most favorite. I'm not going to spend too much time on each song. I'll just share enough to explain why they're ranked in the order that I chose. All right, here we go. Number 6, Requiem of Spirit. I don't know. Compared to the other 5, it just seems the least inspired. It's not that I don't like it necessarily, but I don't know. That's all I got on this one. Number 5, Nocturne of Shadow. I like how haunting the first half is, but I feel like there's a little identity crisis in the second half. It gets too hopeful and breaks the tone, at least in my opinion. Number 4, Prelude of Light. This one makes me happy. It really feels like the beginning to a hopeful morning. I like the second section the best. It brings a slightly less optimistic tone, but it actually works in the context of the piece. I'm looking at you, Nocturne of Shadow. Number 3, Minuet of Forest. Okay, look, I'm a simple guy with simple tastes, and I'm a sucker for the chord progression of this one. That super simple E minor to A major just feels oh so good in all the right ways. Number 2, Bolero of Fire. Alright, this is where I stop saying like and start saying love. I love the marching snares in a triplet rhythm. I love the call and response from harp to ocarina, followed by them joining together to close out the song. Everything layers so nicely. And number 1, Serenade of Water. Damn it, they did it again! That chord progression, just in a slightly different key this time, D minor to G major. It's so good. It sounds dreamlike, but with just the right amount of maturity to keep it grounded. All in all, each of these short tracks share quite a few things in common with one another, from their instrumentation to even their structure. Yet, somehow, their melodies are engaging and distinct, allowing the tracks to detach from one another and stand alone as 6 individual pieces of music quite nicely. It also helps that these songs are spread out throughout various parts of the soundtrack when listening in sequential order. It serves the purpose of giving the listener a return to something familiar, but still different enough to feel new. To finally wrap things up, the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time soundtrack tells its own complete story, from beginning to end. Beginning. 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 Wait! I almost forgot to talk about... It's easy to remember an adventure for its highlights, conflicts, and inevitable epic conclusion. But in order for an adventure to have an end, it needs to have a beginning. And beginnings aren't loud or exultant. They're quiet and contemplative. A video game soundtrack is only as good as its opening theme. Its job is to capture our interest and set the stage for what's to come, musically or in-game. It's an incredibly important role. Ocarina of Time soundtrack, a musical journey filled with adventurous, dynamic, and powerful music. Opens with a simple, quiet, and wistful F major 7 on the piano. The title theme is one of the most iconic songs in not only Ocarina of Time, but the entire Zelda series. To me, it represents the calm before the storm. The subtle, unassuming piano and string section make for a peaceful and somewhat somber experience. That, paired with a reflective ocarina melody, sets the tone for the rest of the soundtrack's overall musicality. Ocarina of Time's soundtrack tells its own story at its own pace, complete with its own beginning, middle, and conclusion. Although its numerous songs vary in style, when sequenced together, every moment in the soundtrack embodies and cycles through the same core musical themes: spirit, solitude, change, and of course, adventure. My reason for making this video was to show appreciation for one of my all-time favorite games in the best way I knew how. And if I were to guess, odds are you appreciate this game too. So maybe next time, before you start your 100th playthrough of Ocarina of Time, take some time to appreciate it through a different lens, by listening to its soundtrack, taking a back seat, and letting the music play through the game for you. You might just find yourself going on a brand new adventure without even putting in the cartridge. Hi, my name's Alex, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. You know, this has been a passion project of mine for a long time, and it feels so good to finally get it out into the open. So once again, thank you for taking the time to do this. You know, I love video game music so much. I listen to it all the time. It's some of my favorite stuff to listen to. And if I were to guess, if you've made it all the way through this video, you probably feel the same way about video game music too. So I do have one more thing to ask, and you know what I'm going to ask? If you could do the things, right? Like the video, that goes a long way. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to VGM Quest, that would mean a whole lot to me. And one final thing, leave a comment down below and let me know what other video game soundtracks you'd like me to go in depth on. You know, there's so many games spanning so many genres, so many years, decades, and it's all great, old and new. So if there's anything you'd like me to cover next, tell me. Anyway, I guess that's all for now, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.